Well, welcome to Fruityloops version 10. I'm just going to do a short tutorial in how to make a military drum beat using snare drums. It's quite an unusual thing to try and achieve with this kind of sequencer, and the aim is to try and make the beat as realistic as possible. I'll start off by saying a lot of people use Fruityloops, this part here, to create the drum beat. I don't think this requires any further explanation to anyone listening to this tutorial, as I'm sure you've all used it before. What I'm going to do is use a sound font. I prefer to use sound fonts with drums, mainly for the reason that you can send it straight to piano roll and you can use all of your kit on one piano roll, and I just prefer that when it comes to making beats. It's not really as relevant because we're only using a snare drum in this instance, but I'll quickly show you both. With these sound fonts, you tend to find that the bass drum will be a C3 and snare drum should be a D3. There we go, I'm quite happy with that one. For those that don't have or use sound fonts, I will show you how to do this using the normal function. It would just be a case of send it straight to piano roll on your sample, and it would be a C5 for the normal sound, and it would be exactly the same. Okay, so the first thing we're going to create is some sort of drum beat. You know, if you think about some quite easy military drum roll would be, you know, dum ba da dum dum da da dum dum. So let's just create that. So maybe there's your first hit. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, dum. Okay, so we'll just have a quick listen to that. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is go to snap and put it to none, and then I'm going to shorten the length of every note. You'll see why in a minute. Okay, the things that are important here are the tempo. I would strongly suggest that you should have your tempo arranged prior to making your drum beat. The reason being that the limits of what a real drummer can do with any particular tempo will dictate a completely different drum rhythm in the amount of hits that you make and the amount of reverberation there is on each drum hit. And you'll see what I mean in a minute, so I'm just going to play around with this. So what we're going to do here is each one of these would be a left and a right, and then possibly both together. We'll work out that as we go. So I'm going to start on be your left hit, so we'll put in 1, 2, 3 extra afterwards. So this would be the stick bouncing off the snare as it goes, so each would have a decreasing velocity to make this realistic. So 1, 2, 3 there as well, and same again, decreasing velocity. We'll make this hit a double and squeeze them nice and close together. Make sure the second one has quite a low velocity. Again, these three are also going to be hits where the snare is hit several times by the same stick in descending velocity, and we'll do the same again here. And this goes back to the tempo issue that I just mentioned, that there is only so quickly that the drumstick would hit against the snare drum. So if you increase the tempo too high, you'll get a totally unrealistic sound. So that's why I would suggest having your tempo arranged first. So now that we've got the first hit, single, 2 drum hits with reverberation, single hit, both sticks together, another one with left, right with the reverberation, and a full hit followed by a double. Let's just have a quick listen, see what we're like. Okay, that's not bad. We'll see how we can just manipulate this from here just to sort of get a nice sound. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is play around with the velocity. You'll find each drum sound you use, each sample will be different. So you just got to find what sounds best for this particular one. My feeling here is that we would be better having more velocity per hit. You'll also notice I've managed to squeeze in a 4th hit there. So I'll just put the last one, I'll keep it quite gentle just to show, you know, the drumstick just touching. So let's give it a go again. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. When it comes to the tempo, you'll see what I mean here, that you should start off with a tempo fixed to begin with, so you know what tempo you start with, because each hit can only sound realistic within a certain boundary. For example, if you wanted to go down as far as 70 beats per minute, you'll find it's far too slow and you wouldn't be able to bounce the stick at that speed. In the same way that if you go up too high, we'll say even I think 160 beats per minute, I think you'd have the same problem, except you'll just get an unrealistic plasticky sound. Well, I can almost cope with that, but that's probably about as fast as you'd want to go with that beat, but we'll stick to 130. Okay, our next job is to turn this into a loop that's slightly different each time. So we're going to loop this 4 times. So I'm just going to copy and paste it. I'm just keeping it on no snap whatsoever. There's not a problem with this. You would normally want to snap it exactly to the start of each bar. However, we're creating the sound of a drummer. He's maybe not absolutely perfect, you know, so we're gonna just create a more natural rhythm. Okay, so the next thing to do now is to make each one slightly different and have a couple extra flicks and rolls. Okay, we'll leave patterns 1 and 2 as we have made them. So 3 and 4, this becomes the middle now. So what I'm going to do is add an extra little roll in here. So we'll do left stick, right stick, so just lead you into the next one, and we'll add a double hit here, nice and close together, just to create it just slightly different. Okay, so 1 and 2 were the first one, 3 and 4, you've got your extra roll there. 5 and 6 we'll leave as the same as the original, and 7 and 8, I suppose this is where you can add a little extra license to maybe add an extra new hit in here. We'll add a little flick here as well. And a roll. And you don't want it to be too exact. What we'll do with this is actually have a few hand hits quite quickly. It'll just create a really organic sound. Okay, let's give this a listen to, see if we need to tweak it any further. Okay, moving on to the next phase, we'll come out of the piano roll, and there's your loop, 8 bars. Okay, what I'm going to do is we'll choose a special effects here. So we'll open the effects channel. I think we would like a little bit of reverb, and we'll also have a Fruity balancer. Okay, so reverb, we'll try a large hall to begin with. I'll take the wet down a little bit and make the hall a little bit bigger, give it a kind of airy sound. Just give that a go. Probably a little too much just now. Let's take it in slightly, reduce the amount again. Brilliant. Okay, that's something that you can play around with at the end in your sort of fine tuning phase. Okay, the next thing to do is to clone the channel, and I'm going to load a new drum on. I'll take the live kit, can copy and paste. I just cut there, that was just a very minor mistake there by me, but easily corrected. There we go. Okay, so what you have now is two identical loops, both played on different sounding drums. We'll have a wee listen to this one. So it's a slightly different sounding drum noise. The next thing to do is put one all the way to the left, and one all the way to the right. Don't go completely. That's probably 85%, there or thereabouts. Then let's have a listen to them both together. Okay, so we're getting a lot closer now. The next thing I want to do is make it organic. Okay, so we'll go back into our piano rolls. I want to zoom in on 2, and I want you to just move these around a little bit. Put some closer together, some further apart. This is all just going to create the realism here. Generally, the ones you should leave would be the ones at the start of bars and where you would naturally have a snare hit, like here. I'm not going to move this one because generally speaking a good drummer would manage to hit that with fairly accurate timing. So yes, this bit can be slightly laborious. Okay, so this should be it. We'll just play about with the tempo. Okay, what I have done is I've got the 2 original drums that we worked on. They're both obviously slightly different as we did before. I've then added 2 further kits by the same sort of process. Kits 3 and 4 here they are slightly different in that they have stereo enhancement. One goes left, one goes right. So here's a listen to just the extra bits I've added. And here's the whole thing. I'll play it all the way through with all of the parts. Okay, and that's that played through. What I'll do now is I'll show you how this drum beat could be used in a song, and I'll show you another couple of examples of similar sort of military beats that I've created. Here's one I made earlier. What we have is a different military beat. As you can see, it's been made using the same technique. It's a slightly different rhythm, and it's also played alongside a bass drum. I'll just give you a wee sampler of that. As you see, it's a different feel to it. It's quite well polished as well. I'll just play this alongside the main themes of the music. This is from Space Crusade, my version that I've made in 2012. It's like a remix of an old 1990s computer game. Just gives you an idea of how these sort of military drums could be used. I think you get the idea of that one. And here's exactly the same part of the song again, except it's with the beat that we've just made. I've sampled it and sent it across. So here we go. So there you go. Just a really bit of background. I've trained in military drums with a Scottish pipe and drum band several years ago. I've also been sequencing for some time, so this is really just marrying up those two skills. I know it's a little unusual, something that you wouldn't hear every day. That's why I've put this on, because I'm not sure if there's many examples of this. So I hope you've enjoyed. If you want to hear the full song of that Space Crusade music, please see my YouTube channel, and you can just click on it through there. Thanks for listening.